She always said she was the planner, the careful one. I trusted her completely, until one night I opened the account and realized she'd been planning something else. I used to believe we were building something real, something that would last. Back then, it felt like every late-night talk, every small sacrifice, every plan we scribbled down on scrap paper meant we were laying bricks for the future we both wanted. When I first met Claire, it was not about fireworks or some movie-style instant spark. It was quieter than that, more like a steady flame that caught and grew without me realizing how much warmth it brought into my life. She was practical, grounded. I liked that. I had been around enough chaos growing up to know that stability was worth more than any whirlwind romance. We moved in together after a year, renting a little townhouse just outside of the city. It was not much: creaky floors, outdated cabinets, a landlord who barely returned calls, but we made it ours. We split things in a way that made sense. I handled most of the bills, the mortgage-sized rent, the utilities. She took charge of groceries, day-to-day stuff, and, most importantly, our savings account. Claire had this way of talking about money like it was not just numbers, but possibilities. We would sit at the kitchen table with mugs of cheap coffee, and she would sketch out ideas in her notebook. Saving for a house, building a cushion for emergencies, maybe even starting a family down the line. Her handwriting was neat, looping in a way that made even the ugliest numbers look almost elegant. She promised she would be the careful one, the planner, the one who would make sure our sacrifices actually grew into something bigger. And I believed her. Why would I not? The way I saw it, trust was the core of everything. I trusted her with the money because I trusted her with my heart. I told myself I did not need to micromanage or double-check. That is what a partnership was supposed to be. She handled savings, I handled the grind of paying most of the bills, and together we were climbing towards something better. There were nights I came home bone-tired, covered in the dust and sweat from long shifts, and she would remind me that it was not for nothing. "We are getting closer," she used to say, showing me the tidy columns she had written down. It made me feel like all my exhaustion had a purpose, that even when I was too worn out to dream, she was holding on to that vision for both of us. Looking back now, I realize how badly I wanted to believe in us, how much I needed the idea that we were moving forward, not just surviving day to day. But that was the problem. When you believe so deeply in someone, you stop noticing the little cracks. You stop asking questions. And sometimes, you miss the signs that the foundation you thought you were building on is not as solid as you imagined. Because eventually, I would find out the truth, and nothing could have prepared me for how it would feel. I can remember the first time Claire brought up the idea of combining our money. It was a Sunday. She was in the middle of folding laundry, some show playing in the background that neither of us was really watching. She looked at me and said, kind of offhand, "It just makes sense, doesn't it? One savings account, one future." It did make sense. We were living together, planning together, dreaming together. I thought we were on the same team. So I said sure, and just like that, we opened the joint account. I kept working overtime, kept funneling whatever extra I had into that account without even thinking twice. She always seemed on top of it. She would mention how we were doing, little updates, small wins. "We're past 10 grand now," or "If we keep this up, we'll hit 25 by spring." Sometimes she would even text me little screenshots of the balance, and I would smile like some fool, proud of both of us. I never asked to log in myself. Never needed to. I figured if there was a problem, she would say something. Claire was the organized one. I was the workhorse. Looking back now, there were signs. Nothing loud, nothing obvious. Just little things that I ignored because I trusted her. Like how she stopped bringing up the numbers as often. Or how she brushed me off when I asked if we should start thinking about moving some money into a CD or investment account. "Not yet," she would say. "I want to keep things flexible." There were a few new things here and there. A new coat that looked expensive. A weekend trip she said her cousin paid for. An online delivery or two that she waved off as just a deal I could not pass up. I figured maybe she had a separate spending budget she was managing on her own. I did not pry. I did not want to be the guy who made his partner feel watched. And besides, I was too tired to think too hard. Between work and life, my days started to blur together. My only job, I told myself, was to keep showing up, keep providing. Claire said she was handling the savings, and I believed her. Simple as that. But now, every time I go back over those moments, I wonder how I missed it. how I did not see what was really happening. It is like watching the playback of your own life and screaming at the screen, trying to warn the guy who still believes everything is fine. There was one night, maybe a month before it all came crashing down, when I woke up around 2 in the morning and found Claire sitting on the couch with her laptop. The glow lit up her face, and she jumped a little when she saw me. "Could not sleep," she said, closing it quickly. "Just looking at travel blogs." I shrugged and went back to bed. At the time, I thought nothing of it. But now I think that might have been the first moment she realized I was not checking, that I was not looking over her shoulder, that she could do whatever she wanted, and I would not notice until it was too late. And it was almost too late. Almost. It happened on a Thursday. That is the part one still remembers so clearly. Just a regular, nothing special Thursday. I had swung by the gas station after work to fill up, grabbed a couple of snacks, and tried to pay with my debit card. It got declined. Twice. At first, I figured maybe the chip was scratched or the machine was busted. So I used my credit card instead and drove home thinking maybe there had been a bank glitch. It happens. Technology fails. But then I got home, dropped my boots by the door, and sat down on the couch. Something felt off. Like this quiet pressure in the back of my head that would not go away. I opened the banking app on my phone, not even the joint one, just my regular checking, and saw a few strange withdrawals. Transfers I did not recognize. Then, curiosity turned to dread. I pulled up the joint savings account. That balance Claire used to brag about. It was zero. Not low. Not, we had to dip in for an emergency. I mean completely wiped clean. I just sat there for a while, staring at the screen like maybe it would load different numbers if I refreshed it enough times. I must have tapped that little refresh icon a dozen times. Still zero. There was a moment, maybe 10, 15 seconds, where my mind tried to make excuses. Maybe she moved the money to a better account. Maybe she found a new bank with higher interest. Maybe this was smart planning I just had not been looped into yet. But then the transaction history loaded, and I saw them. Withdrawal after withdrawal, all from the past 3 months. A few hundred here, 1,000 there, then 2,000, then even more. There was no pattern, no strategy, just bleeding money. One of the biggest ones was marked as Venmo transfer, designer purchase. Another said event deposit, non-refundable. One of them literally said Bali Air International. I had never been to Bali in my life. I do not even remember standing up, but I found myself pacing the living room, heart pounding in my ears. My hands were shaking. I checked the date. The biggest transaction had happened just 2 days ago, while I was working a double shift to cover our car insurance. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, something that would make all this make sense. Maybe she had planned a surprise. Maybe she had made some huge investment and just had not told me yet. But deep down, I knew. This was not an emergency fund being used to save our lives. This was not a surprise house deposit or a ring or anything noble. This was spending. Casual, thoughtless, selfish spending. And she had not said a word. Not once. I felt like I was watching the walls of our life collapse in slow motion. Every plan we had made, every sacrifice I had convinced myself was worth it, it all suddenly felt like a joke I did not know I was part of. That night, I waited for Claire to come home. I sat at the table, phone screen still glowing, staring at that zero like it might start speaking to me. She walked in like nothing was wrong, and I had no idea how to begin the conversation. But I knew one thing for sure. Whatever this was, it was not just about money. Claire walked through the door carrying takeout, humming like it was just another normal night. She kicked her shoes off, dropped her keys in the bowl by the door, and glanced at me sitting there at the table. She paused for a second, sensing something. "What's up?" she asked, setting the bag down. I could not answer right away. My mouth was dry. My hands were still clenched around my phone. I had played this moment in my head 10 different ways before she got home, but now that she was standing there, calm, casual, the same person I had trusted with everything, I just froze. Then I said it. I checked the account. She blinked. "What account?" I stared at her for a long second. "The savings. Our savings." There was a shift in her face. Not panic. Not guilt. Just this flicker of something, like her mind was trying to sprint ahead and figure out how much I knew. I kept going. "It's empty, Claire. All of it. Every dollar." She stayed quiet, and that silence hit harder than if she had screamed. "I do not understand," I said. "Where did it go? What happened?" She finally pulled out a chair and sat across from me, avoiding eye contact. I meant to talk to you about that, she said. That sentence made me feel like the floor dropped out beneath me. Meant to talk to me? Meant to? She started with excuses. Said a few unexpected things had come up. Something about needing to cover some deposits for a trip she was planning for us. Said she was just moving money around and had every intention of replacing it. But nothing she said lined up with the timeline. And she was choosing her words too carefully, like someone who had practiced this. I interrupted her. Claire, that money was for us. For our future. You never even told me you were spending it. She looked up at me then, and her eyes were different. Defensiveness had replaced guilt. I did not think I needed to check in every time I used some of it, she said. We agreed I would manage the savings. I felt like I was choking on my own breath. Manage does not mean drain. She crossed her arms. You act like I blew it on nonsense. Did you? She did not answer. That silence said everything. I stood up and started pacing. My chest felt like it was full of broken glass. I wanted to scream, but my voice would not rise past a whisper. Was it just shopping? Or trips? Or what? Were you helping someone? She flinched a little at that last part. And right then, something shifted in my gut. Something cold. Something I had not considered until I saw that reaction. It had not even crossed my mind before. But now? Now I had to ask the question I was scared to say out loud. Claire, is there someone else? She did not answer. She just stood up, walked past me toward the bedroom, and closed the door behind her. And I was left there, standing in the kitchen with a bank balance of 0 and a heart full of questions. I did not sleep that night. I just sat on the edge of the bed staring into the dark, listening to the soft rhythm of Claire breathing on the other side. She had not said another word since closing the door. She did not explain. She did not defend. She just shut herself away like it would all pass over if we left it alone long enough. But I could not leave it alone. My mind would not stop replaying it all. Every late night at work. Every time I skipped a meal to stretch my paycheck. Every time I said no to something I wanted so we could say yes to the future. And now the future was gone. Quietly, casually erased. I kept wondering how long she had been planning it. Or if she ever planned it at all. Maybe it just started with one thing. A small expense. A just this once kind of moment. Then another. And another. Until it spiraled, and the number in that account stopped meaning anything to her. But to me, it meant everything. It was not just money. It was all the hours I had missed out on living so I could make sure we had something to fall back on. It was the life I thought we were earning together. And now, I was starting to wonder if I had been building that life alone the whole time. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. Made coffee. Checked her phone. Asked if I had work. I asked her again, straight up, where did the money go? She gave me the same answers, said she used some of it for plans, that she was working on getting it back, that I was blowing it out of proportion. But every word sounded thinner than the last. Like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. That night, I could not take it anymore. When she fell asleep, I grabbed her laptop. I had never done that before. Not once in our relationship had I snooped through her stuff. I always figured that if you had to spy, the relationship was already broken. But this time, I needed answers. I opened her email first. That was when I saw it. A confirmation from a boutique travel agency. Payment completed for a luxury retreat in Maui. Not we or us. Just her name. And then, a reservation for a second ticket. Under a name I did not recognize. I clicked through the threads, my heart hammering in my chest. And there it was. A message from her to someone named Aiden. I told you I would take care of it. He still thinks the money is for both of us. I sat there frozen, trying to breathe. She had not just drained our savings. She had planned to leave. With someone else. And I had funded the whole thing. I did not confront her right away. I know, I probably should have. Maybe I should have stormed into the bedroom, thrown the laptop on the bed, and demanded answers. But I didn't. I just sat there in the living room, staring at that email chain like it was a roadmap to some alternate version of my life. One I had been financing without even knowing it. Her words echoed in my head. He still thinks the money is for both of us. That was what wrecked me the most. Not just that she lied. Not just that she drained our savings. Not even that there was someone else. It was that sentence. She knew what she was doing. She knew I trusted her, believed in her, built everything around us as a team. And she used that trust like a credit card with no limit. I did not go to work the next day. I just sat on the couch, the same spot I had once dreamed from, where we used to sketch out plans for the future. All those someday ideas we threw around like they meant something. House with a porch, rescue dog, weekend trips to the mountains. All of it felt like garbage now. Leftovers from a story she had been pretending to believe in just long enough to get what she wanted. By midday, she was back from wherever she had gone, sipping some overpriced drink and scrolling through her phone. She looked up at me, asked if I was feeling okay. I told her I was just tired. She said I looked pale. I said nothing. Something inside me had gone quiet. Like a switch had flipped. I was done begging for explanations. Done trying to understand. Done pretending that this was some kind of miscommunication. I spent that evening gathering everything. Bank statements, screenshots, her emails, the full picture. Because if she was going to make me the fool, I was going to make damn sure I did not stay one. Later that night, when she went to bed, I opened a new checking account. In my name only. I called my credit card company. Froze every card with her name on it. I went through every bill and subscription I had been paying for, the streaming services she loved, the gym she rarely used, the phone plan I had been covering since month 2, and I started shutting them down, one by one. Not in anger. In clarity. If she was already gone in spirit, already planning to disappear with someone else, then I had no reason to fund her escape. I was done being her backup plan. And just when I thought I had seen everything, I found something else. A receipt. One that did not match the travel dates for Maui. This one was local. A high-end apartment lease. Signed. Paid in full. Move-in date. 1 week away. My name was nowhere on it. But Aiden's was. I stared at that lease like it was a confession letter. Aiden's full name. Claire's signature. A security deposit I knew had come straight out of our joint savings. Move-in date circled in red, exactly 7 days from now. 7 days. She was planning to walk out like nothing happened. Let me keep covering the bills while she quietly slid into her new life with someone else, in some sleek high-rise apartment we never talked about, using money we were supposed to build our future with. And I would have never known if her card had not gotten declined at a gas station. That was the part one kept coming back to. It was like fate had tripped over its own shoelaces and accidentally handed me the truth. I spent the rest of the night reading over every single document. I traced the money, followed the digital breadcrumb trail. She probably thought I was too dumb or too trusting to notice. Flights, furniture orders, a catering deposit. She was not just leaving. She was throwing herself a celebration on the way out. And the best part? She was going to do it quietly. Probably pack her bags while I was at work, send a vague text message about needing space, and vanish. I would come home to a half-empty apartment, an avoided savings account. But now, I had 7 days, and I was not going to waste them. First thing the next morning, I called my job and requested some personal time. They were hesitant. I had not taken a real break in over a year, but they gave it to me. For days. That was all I needed. Next, I called a locksmith. Then, I visited my buddy Josh. He owns a storage unit out near the edge of town. Told him I needed a place to stash some stuff. He raised an eyebrow but did not ask questions. Just handed me the key and said, "Do what you gotta do." And that night, when Claire came home, everything was exactly where it had been. Same couch, same kitchen, same pile of mail on the counter. I even asked her how her day was. She smiled, said it was productive. I almost laughed. The calmness was unnatural, like we were both living in two completely different realities. She thought she was getting away with it, still waiting for the perfect moment to vanish. I decided to help her get there faster. Over the next 3 days, while she was out running errands, I started packing everything that was mine. Slowly, quietly, box by box. I made sure not to disturb her stuff. I wanted her to come home and think everything was normal. Because the one thing I had learned? People like Claire, people who betray in silence. They rely on you not noticing until it's too late. But this time, she was the one who had no idea what was coming. And just when I thought I had seen it all, something else dropped into my lap. A voicemail. From Aiden. Except he was not calling her. He was calling me. I had no idea how he even got my number. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I almost deleted the voicemail without listening. But curiosity got the better of me. I hit play and held the phone to my ear. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Hey, this is Aiden. I'm guessing you already know who I am. And yeah, I know who you are too." That stopped me cold. He took a breath. "Look, I don't know how much she told you. But this was never my idea. None of it. She made it sound like things were over between you two. Said you were living separate lives. Said you were roommates at best. I know that doesn't change what happened. I just thought you should hear it from me. He paused. The message crackled a bit. I found out about the savings account yesterday. She told me it was her money. I didn't ask questions. But after seeing how things went down, I started to. And, well, now I know it was not just hers. Another pause. Look, man, I'm not calling to beg or apologize. I just want you to know. I'm out. I canceled the lease. I'm not doing this with her. She lied to both of us. I stood there frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear, my stomach twisting. He kept going. She might be planning to go without me. Maybe she'll find someone else to fill the spot. I do not know. But if she told you I was some secret plan she cooked up long ago, she's lying. I barely knew what I was getting dragged into. Then came the part that hit the hardest. She said you were the kind of guy who would never look twice. Said you were so focused on work and money, you wouldn't notice if the whole world fell apart around you. That's what she told me. I did not even realize I was clenching my jaw until it started to ache. The message ended with a quiet, good luck, and then silence. I replayed it. Twice. Not because I needed to hear it again, but because I needed to feel it again. Not only had she lied to me, not only had she stolen from me, not only had she planned to walk out with another man, she had mocked me behind my back, made me into a punchline for someone else. And now? Now Aiden was out. The apartment lease was void. The plan she thought was foolproof? Falling apart. But she did not know that yet. She was still smiling at me across the dinner table, still sending texts to a man who had already walked away, still lying with her eyes. And I was done playing nice. Because the next morning, she woke up to a locked bedroom door and a note taped to it. 3 words. Check your email. I was already gone by the time she woke up. I watched from the street across from our building, tucked inside my car, engine off, watching the windows through the windshield as the sun rose behind her bedroom curtains. At exactly 7:48 a.m., the lights flicked on. I pictured her rubbing the sleep out of her eyes, expecting another day of pretending, another day of keeping the lie alive. Then I imagined her walking toward the door, seeing the note taped there. The 3 words I had written at 3 in the morning, after packing the last of my things into Josh's storage unit. Check your email. What she found in that email. Everything. Screenshots of her messages with Aiden. The bank statements. The Venmo logs. A copy of the lease, now canceled, thanks to Aiden's conscience. A screenshot of his voicemail. And a breakdown of every transaction that drained our savings. I included my own note at the end. You could have told the truth. You could have come clean. You could have left with honesty. Instead, you chose silence, lies, and someone else's credit card. I hope it was worth it. I did not yell. I did not threaten. I did not beg. I just laid it all out in black and white. Facts she could not twist, numbers she could not deny, and a goodbye she could not interrupt. By the time I hit send, I had already transferred the last of the money from my personal account into a new one she would never touch again. I canceled the lease on our apartment. It had been in my name since day 1. 30-day notice filed. Management was sympathetic. They had seen worse. When she finally tried to call, twice, 3 times, I let it ring. No voicemail. No message. She tried texting next. First, just 1 word. Please. Then, can we talk? Then, you do not understand. But I did. I understood perfectly now. And it got even clearer when her 4th message came through, the mask finally slipping. You are seriously blowing this out of proportion. We could have worked through this if you had not overreacted. That was the real Claire. Right there in the text. No apology. No ownership. Just a woman who still believed she could spin the narrative, even when she had been caught. And then came the kicker. Another message. A photo. Her standing in the apartment, surrounded by boxes that were not hers. A new caption. I guess it's all yours now. That was the moment I realized she had come back to an empty home. Everything that was mine. Gone. Everything she had used to build her exit plan. Useless. She had no backup plan anymore. No Aiden. No apartment. No savings. And for the first time in months, I could finally breathe. But even then, I still had not told her everything. Because there was one more secret I had kept to myself. And that was going to change everything. I waited 2 more days before sending the last message. Not because I needed time to think. Because I wanted her to. I let her sit in the mess she made. Let her pace around an empty apartment, wondering how it all unraveled so fast. I gave her space to spin every excuse in her head, to rehearse apologies she thought might still work on me. Maybe even practice some tears in the mirror. But it was never about the tears. This was about truth. So when I finally texted her, I kept it simple. Thought you should know. I already knew about Aiden before I saw the bank account. That was true. The night I found the account drained, I did not just stop at the balance. I went deeper. Found her hidden folder in the cloud, screenshots of messages, flight confirmations, even selfies she had taken with him weeks earlier, while telling me she was visiting her mom. I did not say anything back then because I needed to know how far she would go. If guilt would stop her. If she would choose honesty at the last second. She never did. I also never told her something else. About the savings. It was true she drained the joint account, but what she never knew was that I had started pulling money out 6 months earlier, bit by bit, and moving it into a private high-yield savings under my name. Not out of suspicion, out of instinct. A weird gut feeling that kept nudging me every time she brushed off questions or changed the subject when we talked about the future. She thought she had emptied it completely, but she missed over $18,000. And I never corrected her. That money, it was already being used to pay the deposit on a new place across town. 1 bedroom, clean, quiet, mine, a fresh start, a life without doubt, secrets, or someone pretending to love me while planning an exit behind my back. She called 6 more times after I sent that last message. Left 2 voicemails. 1 angry, 1 broken. I did not answer either. The truth is, I do not hate Claire. I do not wish her harm. I am not plotting revenge. I will not post screenshots or tell her friends what happened. But I will never go back. Because now I know what partnership really means. It is not just splitting bills or sharing space. It is about respect, communication, choosing each other over and over again, even when it is hard. And Claire? She made her choice a long time ago. She just never expected me to make mine.